Going to now look at the other way of doing things from decimals to fractions. So previously we talked about fractions over 100 being easy to change. So if you'd had like 23 over 100, you knew straight away that was 0.23. So when a fraction is over 100, it's easy to change straight into a decimal. So we're going to think about doing this the other way. If we have a decimal and we want to change it back to a fraction. So when we want to change a decimal back to a fraction, first thing to do is to put the number over 100. That's the first thing you should automatically think of doing. Whatever that decimal number is, like 2, 3, put it over 100 and you have made a fraction. So for example, 0.19 is 19 over 100. That's the fraction. Now, that one does not need cancelled. There is nothing you can do with that to make it any more simple. That is the fraction, that is the answer finished. However, the next step is to check if we need to cancel the fraction. And we did cancelling fractions last week, and I know you find them difficult, but we'll have to get used to it, we'll have to get better at it. So the first thing just to go over again is you take the decimal, you put it over 100, and then you try and cancel it down. So for example, here we have 0.26. We put 26 over 100. We realise that 26 and 100 are both even numbers, so we are going to divide this fraction by 2. So 2 into 26 goes 13 times, 2 into 100 goes 50 times, and this is the answer. You cannot make this any more simple. 13 over 50 is the finished answer. You've cancelled fractions before and you know that it means to divide both numbers. However, you must remember you do not always divide by 2. Some people felt that because some of the examples we were dividing by 2, that you always divide by 2. It's not always 2. 2 will not go into odd numbers. 2 will not go, sometimes 2 is not the biggest number that goes in. 2 will go into even numbers. So if you want to cancel using 2, you must have even numbers. You must choose the best number which divides in, and sometimes that will be 5 if they end in 5 and 0. It could be 10. It could be 4. It could, for these questions, it will not be 3, but it could be 20. It could be 50. It could be lots of numbers that will help you cancel these fractions. So we're going to look at some examples. So 0.55, your first stage is 55 over 100. Now always look for clues in the numbers. These numbers end in 5 and 0, so immediately you should think, I can divide by 5. So I'm going to divide these by 5. 5 into 55 goes 11. 5 into 100 goes 20. And that's the answer. Nothing will go into 11 apart from 11, so you know you're finished. 32. So you're right. 32 over 100. Now, these are even numbers, so straight away you're probably thinking 2 will go into these numbers, and 2 will go in. However, you should also check if 4 goes in, because very often if you have an even number, 4 will go in. So 4 will go into 32, and 4 does go into 100. So we're going to divide by 4. 4 into 32 goes 8 times. 4 into 100 goes 25 times. You are finished with 8 over 25 because there's nothing that goes into 8 that also goes into 25. You might think, oh, I can divide by 2, but actually 2 doesn't go into 25. It must go into both top and bottom. So we have 0.48, so we'll do the same again. 48 over 100. So you think again, 2 will go into these numbers, so I'll divide this by 2. However, check for 4. 4 will go into 48. So you divide by 4 into 48 goes 12 times. And we already know from this question, 4 goes into 125 times. So there's some examples of where we don't divide by 2. We've divided by 5, 4 and a 4 again. 5 is very common and so is 4. So another thing that happens is sometimes a decimal may only have one digit after the point. If this happens, make the fraction over 10 instead of 100. So an example of this is if you had a decimal like this, 0.3. It has only the one digit after the decimal point. So instead of writing 3 over 100, you write 3 over 10. And that's it done, doesn't cancel that one. Another thing that might happen, you get a question, a decimal may have 3 digits. So put this number over 1,000. An example of that would be 0.127. You can see there are 3 digits. So instead of putting 127 over 100, you put 127 over 1,000. So we're going to look at some questions and work our way through them. So for example, 0.91. So immediately, 91 over 100. There's no cancelling. That's it done. 0.42. 42 over 100. Now it's an even number, so you know 2 will go into this. Does 4 go into 42? It does not. So we are going to stick with 2. 2 into 42 goes 21 times. 2 into 100 goes 50 times. 0.64. 64 over 100. So even number again, so we're thinking 2 will go in, but always check and see does 4 go in. And you can use your calculator to check that if you want. If you're not sure, just go 64 divided by 4. And we'll do that now just to show you. So you've got your calculator. 64 divided by 4 equals, and you can see it goes in 16 times, so 4 goes in. So we're going to divide by 4. And 4 goes into 125 times. So that's it finished. 0.85. We'll start with 85 over 100. So you should be thinking it ends in a 5, it ends in a 0. 5 will go into these numbers. 5 into 85 goes 17 times. 5 into 100 goes 20 times. Don't be stressing about dividing in your head. Use your calculator. Please don't use your calculator just to change the decimal to a fraction. You need to be able to do this without a calculator, kind of, because it could come up with a non-calculator question. You have to show what you divided by and how you changed it. You have to know the process. So 0.4, here's one with only one digit. So the first thing we do is put it over 10, not 100. So we see that these are even numbers, so we're going to divide by 2. Now you might be thinking, oh, I can divide by 4, but 4 will not go into 10. We have to stick with 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. Next one, 6 over 10. So same again, even numbers. We're going to divide by 2. 2 into 6 goes 3 times. 2 into 10 goes 5 times. Here we have an example of a 3-digit decimal. So we remember that a 3-digit decimal has to go over 1,000. So hard to tell what goes into these numbers. 4 definitely goes into 1,000. 4 will go into 312, but you may want to check that just on your calculator. So you would check by saying 312. Did I type 312? I know I didn't. 312 divided by 4. Check it on your calculator and you get the answer 78. So we're going to actually divide this one by 4. So 4 goes into One does this every now and then. 4 goes into 1,250 times. Now you'll notice that you've got 2 even numbers, so you might want to divide by 2. So 78 divided by 2 is 39. And 250 divided by 2, 125. So you have finished, okay? And that's okay to do 2 steps. If you realise you haven't done a big enough number, go again with another number. 615. So straight away you see that it ends in a 5. So you should be thinking, I can divide by 5. So 615 divided by 5 is 123. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. And that's it finished. Okay, so just think about what we've done. You put the number, 2 digits, put it over 100, then cancel if you have to. If there's 1 digit, put it over 10 and cancel if you have to. If it's over 3, put over 1,000 and cancel if you have to. That one was divided by 5. So try the worksheet and see how you get on.